Okay, the Eagles have lost quite a few players in free agency at this point. However, the freaking out and losing faith in Howie Roseman takes are probably a bit extreme. So let's take a further look at why the sky is in fact not falling on the Birds. Plus, what's this talk about Philly trading away both Bryce, Huff, and Dallas Goedert? And also, this latest update should give you just a bit more optimism. So let's discuss that and everything else around the Birds. But first, let's run it. What's up, guys? Apologies for getting this video out a little bit later, but had some sickness going throughout the household, so just kind of delayed the posting and everything else, although maybe it was just the moves that the Eagles recently made or the losses there that got everybody sick. Because I was a believer that Mekhi Becton would end up somehow returning to Philly. Since reports had been semi-promising, with the belief from beat writers being that A, Becton might give the Eagles a hometown discount, and B, the big ticket would want to return to the place that turned his career around. However, once the numbers came in that the right guard only signed a 2-year deal worth $20 million total, Howie Roseman went with the analytics and simply decided to go with the former draft picks who have more years left on their deal.
You agree with this?
100%.
Look, the analytics may agree on this, but clearly everybody else, if you've been anywhere in social media, the comment section on YouTube, on any of these videos, it's entirely polarizing. Heck, I got comments like they can forget about a repeat and they shouldn't even have paid Saquon, and also the thought that the sky isn't falling just with the Becton loss, but collectively with all the losses, it sure feels like it is. Or finally, the belief that perhaps Howie's getting too arrogant. Personally, that feels like a little bit overkill. Although there were quite a few people who started wondering if Howie didn't need to be checked out for a concussion with all the suspect decisions and losses in free agents piling up.
Okay, I think we need to take him to the hospital because I'm pretty sure he has a concussion.
I get it, not everything makes sense, and it's certainly very risky, but when you think about it, either way, whichever direction you go, there's still a risk. And after all, isn't that who Howie Roseman is?
What is your middle name?
Danger.
Look, you extend the window to win now while also saving some cap space, or you sign back a couple different guys, but then all of a sudden you have this same type of issue with your other youth. Can you get those contracts done later? Granted, I'll give you the idea or thought of Oren Burks not coming back for $5 million total on a 2-year deal as being kind of a head-scratcher. Yet reports speculate that more than likely it was Burks who just wanted a better opportunity to get playing time, so he decided on Cincy. Either way, sure, Isaiah Rodgers could have very easily been matched to return with the Birds. But once again, from everyone else close to the team, it's the belief in Keely Ringo that helped make that decision. Of course, I'll be honest, when it comes to the CJ Gardner-Johnson trade, I am still completely at a loss for why exactly that entire move happened.
Well, that's what we have to figure out. That's why we're sitting here.
By the way, don't say cash savings or cap savings because remember, later on we realized that Howie then went after Justin Reid in free agency and was willing to pay him actually more money than what CJ Gardner-Johnson's contract was. However, as we all know, they lost out on that bidding war, leaving Howie Roseman to remain on the hunt for another safety or a bigger move in free agency.
How close were you to that, which would have been
pretty
crazy?
Close, actually.
Really?
Pretty close, just because me and the defensive back coach there have a really good relationship. The defensive system was the same defensive system that I ran at Stanford. So that whole big Fangio system, I know it pretty well. And the conversations were pretty intense. The only drawback was they were just so limited in cap space that we couldn't make a deal that made sense. But the situation, the conversation was happening.
Okay, that right there is why I'll continue to maintain that some sort of move has to be coming for safety. Come on, you don't just go out and get close with that type of player if you don't have plans to sign a solidified guy. It's just unfortunately, so far, the Birds have been stuck in the desert.
Found anything yet? We ain't found
Yeah, Kenyon Green does not feel like the option at right guard, but Tyler Steen could end up being a Pro Bowler. Although before I get there and continue on the right guard topic, I wanted to mention an underrated move in Avery Williams, with the Eagles announcing the former Atlanta Falcons 5th-round pick as their new kick returner / punt returner. Now, this is a guy who's 5'8", 187, and ran a 4.4 140. But the most impressive part is his short area burst and elusiveness. FYI, this dude led the NFL in punt returns in 2022 at 16.2 yards per return. And last season, Williams played in all 17 games while averaging 27.2 yards per kickoff return and 9.3 yards per punt return. So the fact that Philly added him to the roster and didn't tender Britton Covey seems to suggest that Williams is the route Howie plans to go for special teams. I mean, honestly, I like the idea of bringing back Britton Covey and having him in that role, but still, the fact that they're going to do this, I'm totally in favor of it because basically what it does is get Cooper DeJean out of the punt return role and strictly into the nickel position. Of course, it's not like Coop had a difficult time managing double duty because the dude ended up ranking first in overall defense among cornerbacks last season. And heck, he had a pick 6 on his birthday in the Super Bowl. I mean, honestly, just the value of Coop and Q on rookie contracts is insane. Especially when you consider that the Houston Texans just made Derek Stingley the highest paid cornerback in NFL history at $30 million per year. Like, I don't know if you realize this, but that's the same cost as 3 Qs and 3 Coop contracts. So, in honor of DeJean, I've got a pretty awesome giveaway for subscribers. All you gotta do is make sure to hit the like button in this video, and then after dropping a like, go on down to the comment section and let me know which Eagles player you think takes the biggest jump this next season. Where then I'll select one lucky subscriber who commented to win a signed full-size Cooper DeJean helmet on an upcoming live stream. Now, reminder to please be on the lookout for scammers. I will always announce the winners on videos, and my profile has a check mark next to it in the comments since I'm verified by YouTube. So it should hopefully be pretty easy to spot the difference. Also, shout out to Eagle Maniac for these prints. I mean, they're pretty ridiculous. I posted them on my Twitter page if you haven't seen those already, but just make sure to hit the sub button because I will be giving away these on an upcoming stream as well. Look, it's hard to see everything that went into that Super Bowl winning team and not get the same squad coming back. Heck, even Saquon was very disappointed to see his New York brother leaving the Eagles when he posted a response to the Mekhi Becton news on X. Which, yeah, I mean, I don't blame him. Losing the dude who was the best run blocker on the team while providing Saquon's most efficient runners when he ran behind him is certainly a blow. Yet at the same time, this is Jeff Stoutland, and he's been able to make the right guard position work with so many different guys over the last several years. In fact, I don't know if you realize this, but over the last 6 years, the Eagles have had a different starter on opening day at right guard. And by the way, had Tyler Steen not gotten injured during training camp, and then Nick Sirianni recommended to Jeff Stoutland that they take a look at Mekhi Becton at right guard, who knows, it might have been Steen last year instead. Of course, regardless, the eye test is fairly obvious that Steen isn't quite the mauler that Becton is. Yet when it comes to his technique and pass blocking, he actually might be better than Becton. And even though Steen got limited chances this past year, shout out to Anthony DeBona, who reminded that in his one start against the Cincinnati Bengals, Steen allowed just one pressure with Philly scoring 37 points and racking up 397 yards of total offense. So yeah, like the belief in Stoutland University is well understood at this point. But sure, while I still hated to see the big ticket leave for LA, it's reassuring that here the Eagles just won a Super Bowl with Cam Jurgens starting at center for the first time in his NFL career and Mekhi Becton doing the same thing at guard. Anyway, in terms of production, I can talk myself out of any major concerns, especially for the O-line with losing Becton, who in case you hadn't seen, will end up being a 5th round comp pick in 2026. Which for those doing the math gives Howie Roseman 12 picks in next year's draft, with 5 of those coming in the first 2 days. I mean, that's like playing with house money, which on that point, if you haven't checked out Underdog yet, you should give them a try. Because as one of the official sponsors of the channel, you won't find any better promos, discounts, or bonuses than when you scan the QR code and use my code PHILLYSPECIAL. Plus, right now when you do that, Underdog is offering a special pick in the lobby and up to $1,000 in bonus credit. Of course, with the NFL season done, there's fewer picks on that front. However, in honor of Luka Doncic becoming a Laker, Underdog is offering a Luka Doncic discount for every Lakers game for the rest of the regular season. So go ahead, join the best option in fantasy sports and get signed up today by using my code PHILLYSPECIAL. Oh, one more thing, if you're not in a location that offers Pick'em, you can still get signed up and join a draft league. So whether that's NBA or March Madness with a tourney coming up or even PGA tournaments for the remainder of the year, Underdog's got you covered. Again, just scan the QR code, use code PHILLYSPECIAL, or click the link in the description and you can get up to $1,000 in bonus credit. I do think it's important to bring back up the fact that Howie talked about getting younger and making space to pay the big money guys in the coming years. Remember, he cautioned everyone to have patience, seeing that people might get upset at some unconventional moves this offseason.
No one warned us.
You can think that if you want, but even if you disagree with Howie, you still can't really argue the fact that the Eagles have one of the best, if not the best, roster in the NFL. Now, I get it. Is it a risk to ask so many young guys to step up in starting roles this season? Yes, it absolutely is. Except if we're being honest, it's not too much different from last year. After all, whether it was before the draft or after, there were serious questions around who the Eagles' starting slot corner would be, whether they had any NFL caliber linebackers, along with who was going to step up for Hassan Reddick's departure. And heck, that doesn't even get into the questions surrounding how the right guard position would turn out. But come on, what did we see? Jalen Carter stepped up to replace Fletcher Cox, Cam Jurgens stepped up for Jason Kelce retiring, Nolan Smith stepped up when Brandon Graham went down, or really even a little bit before that. So again, it's kind of similar to what we're looking at this year. The question is, can Tyler Steen step up for Mekhi Becton? And will Moro Ojomo be able to replace Milton Williams? And also, how about Keely Ringo most likely getting a chance to start now? Or yes, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. next to Zach Baun. And finally, can Jalyx Hunt keep up his playoff performances next year in a bigger role to replace Josh Sweat? Again, for other teams and other GMs, I might be concerned, but Howie Roseman has had an absolutely unreal draft history over the last 4 to 5 years, so look, you don't know what the guys are going to be until you get them on the field. And at least for Jalyx Hunt, he's confident he'll be able to surpass those expectations, saying he's going to work his butt off to give the team even more than what they had with Josh Sweat. Because before, in his mind, it was kind of learning from Sweaty, but now it's direct competition to outrush him and give the defense more of a boost from last year. Obviously, yes, that's a bold claim. However, personally, if I'm going to pick one guy to have that biggest jump next year, I'm going to say Big Pimpin'. I mean, Fangio knows what he wants in successful edges, so the fact that he was pounding the table for Jalyx a year ago is all the endorsement you need. And then we'll see if the new signing of Josh Uche ends up making a difference. But at least for the optimists out there, PFF called Uche one of the most underrated free agent signings. Or if you want a more familiar face, then how about pass rusher Patrick Johnson? With Philly bringing back their former 7th-round pick from 2021, according to Diana Rossini. Look, I like the addition because Johnson's familiar with the system and can play a good role on special teams. Still, who knows if he's able to make the roster, but we've seen spurts where Johnson has shown some promise, even if it's sparingly in a rotational role. Be that as it may, realistically, it's Nolan Smith and Jalyx Hunt, and then basically just see whoever else you possibly have. I mean, heck, you maybe even just draft some guys. And honestly, it wouldn't shock me to see the Eagles go that route and draft some meaningful contributions in that space. After all, pick 32 in the draft sets up beautifully to take D lineman, or yeah, there's also the possibility of safety. Yet when you see the latest reports about Philly placing Bryce Huff on the trade block, it feels like the Birds could be going edge. Now, it's no surprise to see Huff's name pop up again, yet for those wondering the cap space difference for if/when a trade got done with Agent Zero, shout out to ESP, but if it's before June 1st, then the Eagles lose $5 million in cap space. But if it's after June 1st, then the Eagles would actually gain $4 million in cap space.
How do I do that? How do we make that happen?
Your guess is as good as mine at this point. However, the idea of trading Dallas Goedert isn't so far-fetched. Granted, Philly continues to remain locked on getting a 4th-round pick in return for Dallas, yet I will say the longer this one plays out, I could definitely see the Eagles kind of lessening that value and accepting a 5th-round pick for him. Plus, if you start looking at the couple moves they've made recently, the tea leaves are suggesting that they're going to move on from Goedert. I mean, heck, Howie's already signed 2 more tight ends. One in Harrison Bryant, who I talked about recently, and then the other in former Colts tight end Kyle Granson. Of course, for those not familiar or who may have missed it, Granson was a 4th-round pick out of SMU in 2021, where the 6'3", 242-pound 26-year-old eventually played 62 games while starting 17 of them for the Colts. Now, out of all those games, he's only averaging about 21 catches and 240 yards per season, so yeah, not a whole lot of production there. However, much like the other signing in Bryant, Granson is also a strong blocker, with PFF grading him as their 9th best run-blocking tight end and 10th best pass-blocking tight end. Plus, for those who may not have put it together, Granson also has experience with pass-game coordinator Parks Frazier in Indy. Now, regardless, none of those options or really anyone else is Dallas Goedert. But for anyone wondering the pros and cons for why the Eagles might choose to move on from 88, Nick Waters laid it out pretty well. First off, if they trade Goedert before June 1st, they'll avoid $23 million in dead cap next season. But that also would mean they lose $9.5 million in cap space this year. Or if they trade Goedert after June 1st, then they'll open up about $4 million in cap space this year and still lower the dead cap next year. Although that number is still $13 million next year if they wait until after June 1st. Now, at first, a couple weeks ago, I would have said there's no way they're going to actually get rid of Goedert very early because why are you going to take that dead cap hit? But the more you look at this, the Eagles are not really spending a whole lot of money, so maybe they just say, you know what, we get a good deal, we move on from him, we'll take the dead cap money this season and save it for next year. I don't know, just my personal opinion, but I think if they can get a trade partner to offer the right compensation, then Howie will pull the trigger. Plus, not that this is a guarantee, but Howie is typically pretty good about moving on from a player once they start getting linked to being on the trade block or moving somewhere else. Naturally, just because he's good at making deals, but I think also a very underrated part of Howie in negotiations with players and trying to get deals done is that he recognizes the negative effect it can have on a locker room when a player is rumored to be on their way out and then don't end up leaving. Anyway, if I had to guess based on recent reports, I would say Goedert is probably going to be on his way out, and then for Bryce Huff, who knows? What I will say, though, is that even with some drama every once in a while, at least the Eagles don't have the same perception as Dallas does once players leave the Star.
You know, Dallas is my home. I made my home there. You know, my family lives there. You know, I'm forever going to be there, but, you know, I know for sure I'm not going to win a Super Bowl there, so... Yeah. We here.
Okay, I don't know about you, but I got too much of a kick out of the Cowboys' internal beef. Yet sorry, seeing DeMarcus Lawrence call it like it is and then Micah Parsons getting all upset was priceless. Especially when you compare it to Kenny Gainwell's response to leaving to Pittsburgh, where he said it was bittersweet but life goes on, and I love those guys. Seriously, good luck to Gainwell, and also good luck to longtime long snapper Rick Lovato, who the Eagles surprisingly decided to part ways with when they signed Cleveland long snapper Charlie Hewitt to a one-year deal worth $1.4 million. Look, I'm no special teams expert, but we all know how shaky Jake Elliott was this past season. And there's a lot of things that go into the kicking game operation. Plus, I did see several people mention how Braden Mann bailed out Lovato's snaps multiple times this past season. Now, who knows if that was it or what the case may be. Regardless, I'm still going to wish Lovato well, and it wouldn't be surprising if Philly brought in some competition for Elliott. Now, hear me out, I'm not saying move on from Jake because he was clutch when it mattered most, but a little competition never hurts. Anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts on all this, the latest around the birds. Also, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you on the next one. This has been the Philly Special.